Welcome to part 3 in the series on the Line 6 Helix. Since uploading part 2, I've received many requests to provide the patches that I used in that video. I decided instead to rather demonstrate how these patches were created from scratch. The patches were the Plexi Normal, the Huwatt 100 and the Jazz Rivet. To recap how these patches sound, here they are. I've edited the audio so that they can firstly be heard on their own and then within the overall mix. As you'll see in the video, I've used the built-in cabs for these patches and the Helix was connected via the 1/4 inch outputs to the desk. Plexi Crunch. First step, add a noise gate. My next step, I'm going to select the amp. And the amp that I want to select is the Brit Plexi Norm. Okay, that's selected. Okay, this will sound terrible on its own as there isn't a cab connected yet, as you can hear. Okay, let's go and select a cab. The cab that I favor in this patch is the 75 watt 4x12 cab. In the Helix it's known as the 1960 T75. Okay. This is what it sounds like. Very mild gain. The other thing I'm going to change is I'm going to change the microphone to an SM57. Okay, still very mild gain. So in order to tighten up that distortion and also to do a low cut on the bottom end, I'm going to introduce the tube screamer. Okay, sounds like this. Not a bad tone, but immediately I can hear there are some nasty frequencies in there. Now, in a recording, those frequencies are not going to be as obvious as when you're cranking it up live through a PA. Those frequencies are going to jump out and they're going to sound harsh. So we're going to get rid of them. So I'm going to bring up a parametric EQ. And I'm going to go straight to your mids section of the parametric. And the first thing I'm going to do is turn the gain right up. Then I'm going to turn the Q right to its maximum to be as narrow as possible. And now I'm going to sweep to find those funny frequencies. That's what I'm talking about. Those frequencies will scream through a PA and they'll sound very harsh. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reduce those. So we're going to have a sound like this. Okay, that's with the EQ. This is without it. It's quite subtle, but it'll become very prevalent in a live situation. Okay, now I'm going to add some reverb. And just maybe a room. Okay, mix far too high. Let's pull that down a bit. A bit too low. Okay, that's not a bad tone. Okay, the other thing that was on that patch was a stereo delay. Okay, so let's go and find that. And I'm just selecting the simple delay and the repeat time. Obviously, depending on the tempo of your song, that's what you're going to set it to. But mine was roughly about 500 milliseconds, somewhere around there. So let's set it to that. Okay, and turn the mix down a bit. Okay, that is the patch. What you can do now is you can go back to your amp settings, the bass, the mids, the treble, the presence, and you can adjust that to suit what you like. Obviously, if you're playing chunky chords, well then obviously the delay must come off, and you've got this. Okay, and what you'll find is the patch can sound a bit dull, but of course the minute you turn the volume up through a blaring PA or something like that, you're going to find that all those tops come back. So most of my patches, people have told me, sound slightly dull. I prefer it like that, but it's very easy to just adjust the settings on the amp. You don't even have to go into the EQ. You can push the presence up a bit, you can push the treble up a bit like this, and you get all that brightness back. Obviously for solos, if you want to turn the drive up on the amp maybe a bit more to get a bit more sustain, you can do that. So if I turn that up a bit, we've got this. Okay, so that's the Plexi Crunch. You can see when I brought the Tube Screamer in, I didn't change any of the settings. When I brought the T75 4x12 cab in, I left all the settings as they were. The only thing I changed was the SM57. It's a relatively simple patch. Okay, I know the original patch was made for a Les Paul with humbuckers, but without changing anything, I've plugged in my Strat. Now my Strat has fairly low output pickups, just to show you how well this works with a Strat, with single coils. Okay, and maybe for soloing we can turn the drive up a bit. Okay, let's bring the delay on. And that's your Plexi Crunch. The next patch that I'm going to make is the one that I used the Strat on in part 2 of the video. And the first thing we're going to do is call up the noise gate. And then we're going to call up the amp. The amp is the Huwatt 100. And in general, that is a very loud and clean amp. Going to call up the cab now. And the cab is also called the Huwatt 100. So with just the amp and cab selected, it doesn't sound too bad, but I'm going to change the microphone to the 4038 ribbon. I found that that's a slightly more mellow microphone. I'm going to go back to the amp and turn the drive down slightly. And now I'm going to bring in a compressor for a very, very mild compression. And the compressor I'm going to select is the Deluxe Comp. And in the Deluxe Comp, I'm actually leaving all the settings exactly the same. Going to bring in some reverb, a room reverb, and we'll pull the mix down a bit. And as you can hear, that's a very clean, very mellow sounding Strat tone. If you still want to get more level, if you find that for a clean tone it's not loud enough, what I would suggest is going into the cab settings and upping your level in the cab by maybe 2 or 3 dBs. And you can hear that'll give you a lot of cut. Obviously, once again, you can go back to your amp settings now and you can adjust it to suit yourself, but in general those are the settings that I like. If you want more drive, it's just a matter of upping it on the amp. And that's your loud and clean patch. Okay, the last patch we're going to do is the clean jazz rivet chorus part. So once again, first thing we do is call up noise gate, and then we're going to call up the jazz rivet. Okay. Not a bad tone, but of course the famous thing about the jazz rivet is its chorusing. Now I'm going to select the chorus that I think works best with this, and it's just the patch called chorus. Okay, I'm going to bring in a compressor again, and the compressor I'm going to choose is the Deluxe Comp. I'm going to leave the settings the same, and then I'm going to add some stereo delay onto this as well, because that's what I used in the previous video. Simple delay, and we'll take the mix level right down, and this is what it sounds like. Okay, that's basically the jazz chorus tone that I used. If your guitar is a lot brighter than a Les Paul, once again, go back to your amp settings, drop the tops, drop the bottoms, maybe increase the mids or whatever, but that's up to you. That's whatever suits you. But those are the settings I used for that part of the video. So there you have it. 3 basic patches, but very effective ones. And I found that these translate from live to recording with no problem. Thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe for future videos.